Good morning. Welcome to this February 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Montgomery County House Delegation. Today we have on our agenda a special guest, Congressman Glenn Ivey, and then we will be voting on 3 bills that came out of local committees this week. So we're going to first turn to our guest, Congressman Glenn Ivey. It's so great to have you here. We so appreciate you making the time to come and address the delegation this morning.
Well, am I on? Yeah, thanks
You're
for
on.
having me. I appreciate it. It's been an interesting stretch in the House of Representatives, not super productive, but I did want to get on and have a chance to hear from you all what's going on in Annapolis, where things actually get done, and get a sense of things that we might be able to work together on, ways I can support your efforts, and all of that. So thank you for having me, but I'd love to hear from you all.
Wonderful. Colleagues, anything anyone would like to bring up, or maybe questions that they have for the congressman? I'll just start off and say we are starting to get a lot busier in the House this week. We passed, I don't know how many dozen bills out over the last couple of days and have some more on the floor today. So definitely getting productive on our end. Delegate Corman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congressman Ivey, thank you so much for joining us. I almost hate to ask this, but I noticed some headlines yesterday about government shutdowns looming again. So I was just wondering if you could provide a quick sort of status update, because obviously that affects a lot of our constituents in your district, our districts. So just wanted to see if you had any update there.
Yeah, great question. Unfortunately, this is Groundhog Day all over again, it seems like, with our House Republican leadership. So we're coming up to the dates. They decided, because we're coming up on them so quickly, they're bringing us back in session next week, starting on Wednesday, so we can, start trying to see how to get this done. The problem is the split within the House Republican caucus. As you know, the Freedom Caucus, which is the most conservative part, doesn't want CRs anymore. They want to try and do, regular order, which is the passage of, each of the appropriations bills. The problem is that, really nobody's done that for a couple of decades now. And these guys, not to be harsh, but lack the skill set to do that. So I think they've passed about 3 or 4 approps bills. At last I heard they're about 7 or 8 short. So I don't know that they get to that finish line in time. So I assume what they'll do is come back for more of the same, which is some sort of kick the can down the road, temporary fix, a short-term CR, maybe for a couple of months, and see if then they can come back and do something again. I don't know. The Democrats haven't seen what they've got in mind, so we haven't had a caucus on it yet. I assume that'll happen next Wednesday. But Hakeem may be getting to the point where he's, I don't want to say unwilling to do it, because we all want to make sure we keep the government open, but it may be time to see if we get something in exchange for helping him out, because each time the Democrats have provided more than the margin of victory to get the bill passed. One thing to keep in mind that that we've got a bill that's coming out of that came out of the committees. This is a bill that would essentially allow the District of Columbia to take back the land that's under RFK Stadium. At one point, it was 99 years for $1. I think Jamie Raskin raised concerns about that, so there were some changes made to it, but it's uncertain what the terms are. But that looks like that could be on the floor next week. I know that's in my district, and probably doesn't affect you all in the same way, but it might pop up on your radar screen for a variety of reasons. The governor has taken a real hard line, a real strong interest, maybe I should say, in where that stands. So he's working on negotiations with that, but we'll certainly be able to keep you posted as things evolve over the next few days. But we should know something for sure, I think, by Monday or Tuesday, as to what's going to happen with whether it's going to come to the floor and how it might move.
Thank you. Delegate Love.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And sorry, folks, to bring you into to my world, but Representative Ivey, I have been working for many, many years on an online data privacy bill. I understand that a bipartisan bill passed the, Committee on Energy and Commerce in the House a while back. And I understand that the House is not really functioning well right now. No offense to you. But have you heard anything about a federal online privacy bill moving at all, ever?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, I think interestingly enough, there's a lot of interest in privacy, especially with respect to the social media platforms. And the AI issue has sort of overtaken a lot of this too, and grabbed a lot of people's attention. Even though AI it's a very broad umbrella, it sort of takes in everything potentially. But I'm not sure that there's really going to be movement on the privacy bill that you're talking about. Could be, but I think there's a lot of questions on a couple of fronts about how extensive it should be, how to manage it. And there was, to some extent, sort of the TikTok issue that was real hot when that popped up. I guess last fall when they had the first hearing and really went after the CEO. It seems to have kind of lost some steam though over time, at least on that front. And that really was not so much the privacy issue that I think you and I are talking about, but more concerns about China and Chinese ownership. And then, we'll see, the trove of documents that was released yesterday, I think it was, that apparently has a lot of information about Chinese espionage with respect to, well, I guess it's kind of across the board. There might be something in there that pops up over the next few days that might sort of renew that level of interest or that type of interest. But I think we'll see. But maybe what we should do, I'll have my staff follow up with you if that's okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
We'll lay out where we think it is. And I guess what I'd be really interested in thinking through with you is if there's sort of rifle shot pieces that maybe we could take a look at and see if we can move those too. And I'm on Homeland Security and Judiciary, so we have variations of the privacy issue, and it may be that the energy and commerce piece might not be touching on things that I could do or help with directly at the committee level, but we could see.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
Madam Vice Chair, it looks like the chair is frozen. Is the Vice Chair on? Oh, she's back.
Hey, everyone. Sorry, I was
Sorry, the House internet went out again. Delegate Kaufman, if you haven't been recognized.
I have not been yet. Thank you. Sometimes you represent the people of Burtonsville in our county, Congressman. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
And sometimes it's hard to explain because Washington is so dysfunctional already, the consequences of a government shutdown. So do you have like anecdotes or points we could share about the consequences for the people of the 4th Congressional District, or generally, because we all in general know it's bad and that contractors don't get paid, including people like who work for restaurant associates within the House office buildings. But if you could just articulate a couple consequences so that if people ask us about it, we'll be prepared with a few points, that'd be great.
Happy to do it. And that's a great question too. I think certainly contractors not getting paid is a big one. We've got a fair number of those in the northern part of Prince George's County. I call it our research triangle with NASA, NOAA, University of Maryland Agriculture Research Center. We have a lot of contractors there that could definitely be hurt by this. And certainly you all do too. The individual government workers also can face risk as well, depending on how they do the shutdown. Sometimes they change the rules and how it's governed and who's essential or non-essential, who gets paid initially, who has to wait. But certainly the people that have to, many of them do, have to wait to get paid, but have immediate bills like their rent and their food, can really be put in a pinch. So that's a big issue for us as well. The collateral pieces, impacts on businesses that rely on government workers. For us in Prince George's County, churches that rely on tithes and offerings can get hurt severely by that as well. And then at the macro level, this level of dysfunction is hurting our bond ratings as a country, which raises costs for interest rates and the like across the board. And it's damaging, I think, when you add it, especially when to some of the other aspects of it, like our failure to continue to support Ukraine, for example. I think it's hurting American prestige around the globe. I think people are really starting to wonder if the United States is really the leader of the free world like it used to be. And then, Trump's comments with respect to NATO, I think, add to that burden as well. So I think there's bad repercussions across the board. Ironically, we've got Republicans in the House in particular who run around saying it's no big deal. In fact, it's probably good for the government. But we know that we lose money, in costs. For example, sometimes the federal government has to pay fees or penalties even for failing to pay or paying late. And so it costs the government more than it saves the government, even though they're saying the government shutdown is aimed at saving money, so government expenditures. So it just doesn't make sense in any respect. And so I certainly oppose on those grounds. One of the things I've done in the past, and we may do it again, we'll see how close we get this time, was we had a town hall meeting and we brought in government, like AFGE came in and answered calls and questions for people who wanted to have specifics addressed. And they weren't able to give all of the answers because you don't know all the details about how the government shutdown is going to be structured and what the rules are governing employees until after it gets going most of the time. But it can help give people guidance on those fronts. And I think it can be, I don't want to say, calming or, it doesn't help them in that sense, but it does give them a sense of at least they have a better feel for what steps they need to take to protect themselves and their personal and family finances.
Thank you. Delegate Miracle North.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Congressman Ivey, for your many years of service, and particularly your service to Burtonsville, which is part of District 14. I wanted to talk about access to free food. That has been a big concern here in District 14 and among the families in the county. And there's been a lot of push to say, well, where is the money to provide the free meals to kids in schools or fresh foods, healthy foods to kids in schools? And they're pointing to us at the state, especially for someone who's on the Ways and Means, and we're saying, well, we're dealing with this deficit. And the common refrain is, well, there was federal funds and now it's gone. So my question to you is, do we have hope that the federal funds would be accessible again?
Do you mean like the SNAP kind of funding?
The SNAP funding or the like? I mean, that's what I'm asking you as the state legislator, not in the federal government. I'm trying to find the right talking points for the folks that are coming to us at the state saying, can we fund these free meals for kids? And we're trying to figure out where the money is. But again, there's been a refrain that there was federal assistance at some point, and now that has gone away.
No, that's a good question, and I think I think the short answer, the honest answer is I'm not sure. There's a lot of pressure across the board from the deal that Biden cut with McCarthy. Man, that feels like eons ago now, doesn't it? A couple of speakers ago. But there were sort of top line numbers that were essentially kind of reductions in some of these programs across the board. And those were touched on in particular. The child tax credit was another one, although we just passed something to renew it. Not the favorable terms that we had hoped for. I mean, I think the businesses really got much more of the benefit than poor kids did, unfortunately. But I think there's a chance we can make some headway on those fronts as well. But what I could do, I think, is maybe we should keep you in, touch base with you and keep in touch on those things. I'll have somebody on my staff reach out to you and follow up so that we can give you some guidance. A lot of this stuff could be happening, with as some of these deals come together around the CRs and that sort of thing. So it might be pretty fluid, but I'd be happy to stay in touch with you on it and see how it's going.
Great.
Thank you. And I think for our last two questions, we'll take Delegate Wu and then Delegate Spiegel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Congressman Ivey, for showing up here. I think I'm the new one here. I only represent a small part of Montgomery County, Clarksburg, and Damascus, so it's kind of far away from other part. And I think my question is, this morning I heard about the Bloomberg news about the deficit the country is facing. Basically, the interest we're paying for our national debt, almost like triple the revenue we're connected from personal income. And it's ever growing, even we don't incur deficit anymore. So is there any plan from Democrat side that is this a bigger problem, or what are we going to do?
The national deficit, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big interest from a Democratic perspective on when the Trump tax cuts expire. Some of those are going to be coming up in the very near future. Winning the White House again is going to be a key piece for that, because if Trump gets reelected, obviously that's going to be in a very different posture than if Biden wins. And I think we're going to take the House back. Whether we hold the Senate, it's a trickier proposition, especially given some of the recent developments. But I think those are going to be very big factors in it. But I think, the tax cuts are a big piece there. And I think the economy growth is going to be another piece of that as well. There's going to be a lot of reluctance. The Republicans are talking in some instances, but not much, sort of taking on some things like Social Security. I don't see anybody really having any appetite for that. So I don't think those changes will come on that front. But when we've made progress in the past, I think might be Bill Clinton that was the last one to balance the budget, although the Republicans have started trying to take credit for that. But a lot of that was based on, economic growth. We didn't touch Social Security. He didn't do any of the entitlement programs that I think people have reasonably come to rely on, have earned the right to do that. And I think we need to make sure we protect those.
Thank you.
And Delegate Spiegel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congressman, thank you for being here with us today, and thank you for standing with our Democratic allies, lowercase d, who are engaged in foreign conflicts as well. Appreciate your positions on that. But I wanted to ask you, in light of your committee assignments and Homeland Security and some of your subcommittees and Judiciary, if you might comment on the fact that we had this massive cellular service outage this week, and a lot of us got these emergency alerts talking about cascading failures of some of our major service providers. And in the meantime, we're all reading headlines about Chinese hacking efforts. And so I had like a brief moment of panic when I saw that emergency alert. Of course, it turned out to be okay, and everything was back online a few hours later. But just wanted to ask you about sort of policy and programmatic efforts at the national level in terms of ensuring access to emergency response, 911 services, and other efforts to harden our communication infrastructure against cyber attacks and other types of interruptions. Thanks.
Yeah, great question. I think, like you, sort of the chill went through my body when you heard, that it was down like that. And there was some issue about, some of the emergency services being handicapped by the impact of that as well, or being down completely for short periods of time. But, hopefully it's kind of a wake-up call for the United States, and certainly for the House Homeland Security Committee. We spent the bulk of last year doing hearings to try and build up to the point where they could impeach Mayorkas, and they did. And we told them it was going to be a waste of time, and it has been. And also, dramatically lowered the bar for what the Constitution requires for impeachment. And at the same time, the opportunity cost of that was we weren't doing hearings on things like this, the cybersecurity piece, even though it's clear, for example, in the, Russia-Ukraine war, that Russia is really increasing its capabilities for cyber attacks. And, I'm not even sure we're fully aware of what China's able to do now, and Iran seems to be moving in that direction too. So I'd love to see us start moving in the direction of trying to take these things on through our committee and the Congress as a whole. And I think there are other pieces that we need to really focus on in the very short term, like election protection. The cyber attacks on elections in 2016 and 2020, they got worse over time. And it's clear that we weren't fully prepared to protect ourselves from that. Fortunately, we didn't have any, major disruptions or problems, but nothing is assured. And with AI coming on line now, sadly, the ability